The morning sun cast long shadows across the marble steps of the Grand Meridian Hotel as Maya Washington adjusted her black uniform and checked her watch. 7:30 sharp. She had been working the breakfast shift at this five-star establishment for 3 years now, serving some of the wealthiest people in the city. Today felt different somehow, though she couldn't put her finger on why. Maya pushed through the heavy glass doors into the hotel's elegant dining room. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen fireworks, and fresh orchids decorated every table. The morning crowd was already gathering, business executives in expensive suits, wealthy tourists with designer handbags, and the usual collection of people who had more money than they knew what to do with. She tied her apron and grabbed her notepad from behind the bar. The other servers were already busy, but Maya had her own section to worry about. Table 12 was her favorite spot, a corner booth with a perfect view of the entire restaurant. It was also where the hotel's most important guests usually sat. "Maya, you've got the Harrison party this morning," called out Jennifer, the head server. "They requested you specifically." Maya nodded and smiled. The Harrison family had been coming to the Grand Meridian for years. Richard Harrison owned half the tech companies in Silicon Valley, and his wife Elena was known for her charity work. They were good people, despite their enormous wealth. More importantly, they always treated the staff with respect. She watched as the Harrison family was seated at table 12. Richard looked tired, probably from another late night at the office. Elena was checking her phone, likely coordinating one of her fundraising events. But it was their son, Marcus, who caught Maya's attention. Marcus Harrison was 22 years old and had just graduated from Stanford with a degree in computer science. Maya had served him many times over the years, watching him grow from a shy teenager into a confident young man. He was nothing like the spoiled rich kids she often encountered. Marcus was polite, intelligent, and seemed genuinely interested in other people's lives. "Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Harrison," Maya said as she approached their table. "Marcus, how are you doing? I heard you graduated last month." Marcus looked up and smiled. "Maya, yes, I finally made it through. Thanks for asking. Dad's already trying to get me to join one of his companies." "Not trying," Richard corrected with a laugh. "Succeeding. The boy starts at Harrison Technologies next week." Maya poured their coffee and took their breakfast orders. As she worked, she noticed something that made her pause. Marcus kept looking over his shoulder toward the restaurant entrance. His hands were shaking slightly as he reached for his coffee cup. When she asked if he wanted his usual blueberry pancakes, he seemed distracted and asked her to repeat the question. It wasn't like Marcus to be nervous. Maya had seen him handle difficult situations before with calm confidence. Something was bothering him, but she couldn't figure out what. "Are you feeling all right, honey?" Elena asked her son, placing a concerned hand on his arm. "I'm fine, Mom. Just thinking about starting work next week." But Marcus didn't look fine. He kept checking his phone and glancing toward the entrance. Maya delivered their food and continued serving her other tables, but she found herself watching Marcus more closely than usual. In her 3 years at the Grand Meridian, she had developed a keen sense for reading people. It came from growing up in a tough neighborhood where paying attention to details could keep you safe. Her grandmother had always told her to trust her instincts, and right now those instincts were telling her that something was wrong. Around 10 o'clock, a man in a dark suit entered the restaurant. He was tall and thin, with graying hair and sharp features. Maya noticed him immediately because he didn't fit the usual pattern of morning customers. Most people came in groups or couples, chatting and relaxed. This man was alone and seemed to be studying the room carefully. The man asked the hostess for a table, but Maya noticed that he chose one with a clear view of the Harrison family. He ordered only coffee and barely touched it, spending most of his time watching their table while pretending to read a newspaper. Maya's unease grew stronger. She had seen this kind of behavior before, though not in such an upscale setting. Growing up, she had learned to recognize when someone was casing a situation, studying people and places for reasons that usually weren't good. She decided to test her theory. Walking past the man's table with a coffee pot, she smiled and asked, "Would you like a refill, sir?" The man barely looked at her. "No, thank you," he said curtly, his eyes immediately returning to the Harrison table. Maya's heart began to race. In her experience serving hundreds of customers, people who avoided eye contact with service staff were often up to something they shouldn't be. Honest people didn't mind being seen or remembered. She continued her rounds, but kept watching both Marcus and the strange man. Marcus was becoming more agitated by the minute. He had barely eaten his pancakes and was constantly checking his phone. His parents seemed concerned, but weren't pressing him for answers. Around 10:30, Maya noticed the man in the dark suit pull out his own phone and send a text message. Almost immediately, Marcus's phone buzzed. The young man looked at it, and his face went completely pale. His hands began shaking so badly that he had to put down his coffee cup. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. The timing was too perfect to be a coincidence. Somehow, the stranger was communicating with Marcus, and whatever he was saying was terrifying the young man. She walked over to the Harrison table with the coffee pot, trying to get close enough to hear if Marcus would say anything to his parents. But he remained silent, just staring at his phone with a look of pure fear. "Everything all right here?" Maya asked, refilling their cups. "Fine, thank you," Richard said, but his eyes were on his son. "Marcus, you look like you've seen a ghost." Marcus forced a smile. "Just work stuff, Dad. Nothing to worry about." But Maya could see the sweat beading on his forehead, despite the restaurant's comfortable temperature. His leg was bouncing nervously under the table, and he kept glancing toward the exit as if planning an escape route. The man in the dark suit sent another text. Again, Marcus's phone buzzed. This time, he actually jumped when it went off. Elena reached over and grabbed his hand. "Marcus, honey, you're scaring me. What's going on?" "Nothing, Mom. I promise. I just need some air. I'll be right back." Marcus stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Maya watched as he walked toward the restaurant's side exit, the one that led to the hotel's garden area. The man in the dark suit immediately stood and followed, staying about 20 feet behind. Maya's training kicked in. She had taken a personal safety course at the community college, and one thing the instructor had emphasized was trusting your gut when something felt wrong. Right now, everything about this situation felt very wrong. She looked around the dining room for help. The head server was busy with a large party. The manager was in his office with the door closed. The security guard usually stationed in the lobby was nowhere to be seen. Maya realized that if something bad was about to happen to Marcus, she might be the only one in position to do anything about it. Making a quick decision, Maya told her fellow server that she was taking a 5-minute break and followed the two men toward the garden exit. She stayed far enough behind to avoid being noticed, but close enough to see what was happening. The Grand Meridian's garden was a peaceful area with walking paths, benches, and carefully maintained flower beds. It was usually empty at this time of day, which made it perfect for private conversations, or private threats. Maya hid behind a large rose bush and watched as Marcus sat down on a bench near the center of the garden. The man in the dark suit approached and sat beside him. Even from her hiding spot, Maya could see that Marcus was terrified. His whole body was tense, and he kept looking around as if hoping someone would rescue him. The stranger began talking in a low voice. Maya couldn't make out the words, but the tone was clearly threatening. Marcus shook his head several times, but the man kept talking. Then the stranger reached into his jacket and showed Marcus something that made the young man's face go white. Maya's heart was pounding now. She knew she was witnessing something dangerous, but she wasn't sure what to do about it. Should she call the police, hotel security, Marcus's parents. The man stood up and walked away, leaving Marcus alone on the bench. The young man put his head in his hands and began to shake. Maya realized he was either crying or having a panic attack. She waited until the stranger was out of sight, then approached Marcus carefully. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked softly. Marcus looked up, surprised to see her. His eyes were red and his face was streaked with tears. "Maya, what are you doing out here?" "I saw you leave the restaurant and you looked upset. I wanted to make sure you were all right." She sat down on the bench beside him. "Marcus, I don't mean to pry, but I saw that man following you. Is someone threatening you?" Marcus stared at her for a long moment, as if trying to decide whether he could trust her. Finally, he nodded. "Yes, but I can't tell anyone. He said if I talk to my parents or the police, something terrible will happen." Maya felt a surge of anger. She had grown up around bullies and criminals, and she knew how they operated. They relied on fear and isolation to control their victims. "Marcus, listen to me. Whatever this man wants, whatever he's threatening, you don't have to face it alone. There are people who can help." "You don't understand," Marcus said desperately. "This isn't just some random guy. He knows things about my family, about our business. He showed me photographs." Marcus stopped and shook his head. "I can't put my parents in danger." Maya's mind was racing. She thought about her grandmother's advice. When someone's in trouble, you help them. That's just what decent people do. But she also knew that getting involved in something this serious could be dangerous for her, too. "Marcus, look at me," she said firmly. "I don't know what this man wants or what he's threatening you with, but I know this much. Whatever's happening, it's not going to get better by keeping quiet. Dangerous people count on their victims staying silent." Marcus wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "But what if he's watching? What if he sees us talking?" Maya glanced around the garden. They appeared to be alone, but she couldn't be sure. "Come with me," she said. "Let's go back inside and figure this out together." They walked back to the restaurant in silence. Maya's mind was working furiously, trying to come up with a plan. She had seen enough crime movies to know that situations like this rarely ended well for the victims. But she also knew that doing nothing was not an option. When they reached the dining room, Richard and Elena Harrison looked relieved to see their son return, but Maya could see the worry in their eyes as they noticed his red face and shaky hands. "Marcus, sweetheart, please tell us what's wrong," Elena pleaded. Marcus looked at Maya, then at his parents. For a moment, it seemed like he might tell them the truth, but then he shook his head. "I'm just feeling sick. Maybe we should go home." Richard signaled for the check. "Of course, son. We'll get you home and you can rest." As Maya processed their payment, she made a decision that would change everything. She wrote her phone number on a piece of paper and slipped it to Marcus along with his receipt. "If you need anything," she whispered, "call me. I mean it." Marcus looked surprised, but he pocketed the paper. "Thank you," he whispered back. Maya watched the Harrison family leave the restaurant, her heart heavy with worry. She knew that Marcus was in serious trouble, and she was probably the only person who realized it. The question now was what she was going to do about it. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. Maya found herself constantly looking toward the entrance, wondering if the man in the dark suit would return. She also kept thinking about Marcus and the fear she had seen in his eyes. Whatever was happening, it was big enough and dangerous enough to terrify a young man who had never wanted for anything in his life. As she cleaned up her tables at the end of her shift, Maya made another decision. She wasn't going to wait for Marcus to call her. She was going to find out who that man was and what he wanted. Growing up in her neighborhood had taught her how to be resourceful and how to find information when she needed it. Maya clocked out and walked to the hotel's front desk. The clerk A friendly young woman named Sarah had worked there for 2 years and knew Maya well. "Hey, Sarah, can I ask you something?" Maya said casually. "That man who was sitting alone at table 6 this morning, the one in the dark suit, did he pay with a credit card?" Sarah looked confused. "Why do you want to know?" "He left without tipping, and I wanted to make sure he didn't forget something," Maya lied smoothly. Sarah checked her computer. "Let me see. Yes, he paid with a credit card. Name was David Chen." "Thanks," Maya said, filing the information away in her mind. David Chen. Now she had a name. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Maya had learned long ago that in the right hands, even small pieces of information could lead to bigger discoveries. As she walked home to her small apartment across town, Maya thought about what she was getting herself into. She was a waitress from a tough neighborhood, not a detective or a security expert. But she also knew something that rich people like the Harrisons often forgot. Sometimes the people society overlooked were the ones who saw everything clearly. Maya had noticed the warning signs that everyone else had missed. Now she had to decide how far she was willing to go to help a young man she barely knew, and whether she was brave enough to take on whatever dangerous forces were threatening him. One thing was certain. Marcus Harrison was in trouble, and Maya Washington might be his only hope. Maya couldn't sleep that night. She kept thinking about Marcus's terrified face and the mysterious man who had followed him into the garden. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the fear in the young man's eyes when he looked at his phone. Something was very wrong, and she was the only one who knew it. At 3 in the morning, Maya gave up trying to sleep and made herself a cup of coffee. She sat at her small kitchen table and pulled out her laptop, a refurbished model she had saved up for 2 years to buy. If she was going to help Marcus, she needed to learn more about David Chen. Maya had grown up watching her older brother Jerome navigate dangerous situations in their neighborhood. He had taught her that information was power, and that sometimes knowing your enemy was the only way to stay safe. She started with a simple Google search for David Chen. The search returned thousands of results. David Chen was apparently a very common name. Maya needed to narrow it down. She thought about what she had observed at the restaurant. The man was well-dressed, probably in his 50s, and seemed to know details about the Harrison family business. This suggested he might work in the corporate world or have connections to it. She searched for David Chen, combined with terms like Silicon Valley, technology, and Harrison Technologies. Still too many results. Then she remembered something. The man had been very careful about not being seen or remembered. This kind of behavior often indicated someone who worked in security, investigation, or something even less legal. Maya tried searching for David Chen Private Investigator and David Chen Security Consultant. These searches brought up fewer results, but one name caught her attention. David L. Chen, who worked for a company called Meridian Investigations. The company's website was basic, listing services like corporate security, background checks, and risk assessment. More importantly, the photo on the website looked like the man she had seen at the restaurant. Same sharp features, same graying hair, same cold eyes. Maya felt her heart racing as she realized she might have found him. She clicked through the company's website, but there wasn't much information. No list of clients, no detailed descriptions of cases. Just basic contact information and vague promises to protect your interests and handle sensitive situations discreetly. Maya leaned back in her chair and thought about what this meant. If David Chen worked for a private investigation company, who had hired him? And what did they want with Marcus Harrison? Her phone buzzed with a text message. Maya glanced at the clock. It was almost 4 in the morning. Who would be texting her at this hour? The message was from a number she didn't recognize. "I need help. Can you meet me?" Maya stared at the phone. Could this be Marcus? She had given him her number, but she hadn't expected him to use it so soon. She typed back, "Who is this?" The response came quickly. "Marcus, I can't stay at home. He's watching the house. Can you meet me somewhere safe?" Maya's blood ran cold. The situation was escalating faster than she had expected. Marcus was scared enough to leave his family's mansion in the middle of the night and reach out to a waitress he barely knew. Whatever was happening was getting worse. She typed back, "Where are you?" "Parked outside the 24-hour diner on Elm Street. Please, Maya, I don't know who else to trust." Maya knew the diner. It was in a rough part of town, but it was also public and always busy. If Marcus was willing to meet her there, he must be desperate. She grabbed her keys and jacket. The drive to Elm Street took 15 minutes. Maya found Marcus sitting in a beat-up Honda Civic in the parking lot. This surprised her. She had expected him to be driving one of his family's luxury cars. When she approached the car, she could see that he looked exhausted and frightened. Marcus rolled down his window as she approached. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. "I didn't know where else to go." "What happened?" Maya asked. "Why are you here in the middle of the night?" "Get in," Marcus said. "I need to show you something." Maya hesitated for a moment, then walked around and got into the passenger seat. The car was old but clean, and she noticed a Stanford University parking sticker on the windshield. This was probably Marcus's college car, something his parents let him drive when he didn't want to attract attention. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her a text message. "I got this an hour ago." The message was short but chilling. "Tomorrow at noon. Harrison Technologies parking garage, level B2. Come alone or your family pays the price. No phones, no security, no tricks." Maya read the message twice, feeling her stomach drop. "Marcus, this is a trap. You can't go there alone." "I know," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "But look at this." He showed her another message, this one with a photo attached. The image showed Elena Harrison walking out of a coffee shop earlier that day. Someone had been following his mother and photographing her without her knowledge. "They're watching my whole family," Marcus said. "My mom, my dad, even my younger sister at college. This morning I found a tracking device on my car. That's why I'm driving this one instead." Maya felt a chill run through her body. This wasn't just a simple threat anymore. Whoever was behind this had the resources and organization to conduct surveillance on multiple people. They were dealing with professionals. "Marcus, you have to tell your parents. They need to know what's happening." Marcus shook his head violently. "I can't. The first message I got said that if I tell anyone, parents, police, security, they'll hurt my family. Maya, these people know where my sister goes to school. They know my mother's schedule. They know everything." Maya thought about her brother Jerome and the dangerous situations he had faced. He had always told her that when criminals made threats, they usually meant them. But he had also taught her that there was always a way out if you were smart and careful enough. "Okay," she said finally. "Let's think this through. What do they want from you?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "They want access to my father's company. Harrison Technologies has contracts with the government, military projects. The man, David Chen, he told me they need someone on the inside to access certain files and systems." "Industrial espionage," Maya said. She had heard the term before, but never thought she would encounter it in real life. "They want you to spy on your own father's company." "Yes. And if I don't do it, they said they'll hurt my family and destroy my father's business. They showed me documents that could be used to frame him for illegal activities. They've been planning this for months." Maya's mind was racing. This was much bigger than she had imagined. Foreign governments and criminal organizations often tried to steal technology secrets from American companies. If Harrison Technologies had military contracts, the information could be worth millions of dollars. "Marcus, listen to me," she said. "You cannot go to that meeting alone. These people are dangerous, And once you give them what they want, there's no guarantee they'll leave your family alone." "But what choice do I have?" Marcus asked desperately. "If I don't show up, they'll hurt my parents." Maya thought about her options. She could call the police, but Marcus was right that this might put his family in immediate danger. She could try to convince him to tell his parents, but wealthy families often handled these situations by paying ransom or giving in to demands, which rarely ended well. Then she remembered something her brother had taught her. Sometimes the best way to handle dangerous people was to turn their own tactics against them. "Marcus, I have an idea, but I need you to trust me completely." Marcus looked at her with hope in his eyes. "What do you want me to do?" "First, we need to gather evidence. If we can prove who these people are and what they're doing, we can go to the authorities with a complete case. That way they can arrest everyone involved before they can hurt your family." Maya pulled out her phone and showed Marcus what she had found online. "I think the man from the restaurant works for a company called Meridian Investigations. But there's probably someone bigger behind this. Private investigators don't usually threaten billionaire families on their own." Marcus studied the information she had found. "This is amazing. How did you find all this?" "Growing up where I did, you learn to be resourceful," Maya said. "Now, here's what we're going to do. You're going to go to that meeting tomorrow, but you're not going alone." Marcus looked confused. "But they said to come alone." "They won't see me coming," Maya said with confidence. "I know how to stay hidden, and I know how to get help when we need it. But first, we need to set up some insurance." Maya outlined her plan. It was risky, but it was better than letting Marcus walk into a trap alone. They would spend the morning gathering more information about Meridian Investigations and trying to identify who was really behind the threat. Maya had some contacts from her neighborhood who knew how to find information that wasn't available through normal channels. "Why are you helping me?" Marcus asked as they prepared to leave the diner. "You barely know me, and this could be dangerous for you too." Maya thought about the question. The honest answer was complicated. Part of it was that she believed in doing the right thing when someone needed help. Part of it was that she had seen too many people in her neighborhood hurt by criminals who thought they could intimidate anyone they wanted. But mostly, it was because Marcus had always treated her with respect and kindness, even though their social worlds were completely different. "Because it's the right thing to do," she said simply. "And because I don't like bullies, whether they're in my neighborhood or yours." They agreed to meet again at 8 in the morning. Maya would spend the next few hours making some calls and gathering more information. Marcus would go home and try to act normal so his parents wouldn't suspect anything was wrong. As Maya drove home through the empty streets, she thought about what she was getting herself into. She was a waitress with a high school education, and she was taking on people who had the resources to conduct surveillance on one of the wealthiest families in the city. If she made a mistake, people could get hurt. But Maya also knew something that these criminals probably didn't expect. She wasn't afraid of them. She had grown up around dangerous people and had learned how to handle herself. More importantly, she had friends and contacts who could help her in ways that Marcus's wealthy family couldn't. When she got home, Maya called her brother Jerome. It was almost 6 in the morning, but she knew he would be awake. He worked the night shift at a warehouse across town. "Maya? What's wrong?" Jerome answered on the first ring. "I need your help with something," she said. "It's complicated." She explained the situation to her brother, being careful not to mention Marcus's name or any specific details that could put him in danger. Jerome listened without interrupting, asking only a few clarifying questions. "Little sister, this sounds like some serious stuff," Jerome said when she finished. "These aren't street criminals. These are professionals with resources and connections." "I know," Maya said, "but I can't just stand by and let them hurt this family." Jerome was quiet for a moment. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. I know a guy who used to work private security before he got into some trouble. He owes me a favor, and he knows how these investigation companies operate. Let me make some calls. Jerome, this could be dangerous. I don't want you getting involved in something that might hurt you. Maya, you're my little sister. If you're in this, then I'm in this. Besides, I don't like rich criminals any more than I like poor ones. Give me 2 hours, and I'll have some information for you. Maya felt relief flood through her body. Having Jerome's help changed everything. He knew people and had access to information networks that she could never reach on her own. Together, they might actually be able to help Marcus without getting anyone killed. She spent the next hour researching Harrison Technologies online, trying to understand what kind of information foreign agents or criminals might want to steal. The company had several military contracts, including work on satellite communication systems and cybersecurity software. The kind of technology that could be worth millions to the right buyer. At 7:30, Jerome called back with information that made Maya's blood run cold. Maya, you need to be very careful with this situation, he said. My contact says Meridian Investigations is a front company. They do legitimate work sometimes, but they also take contracts from some very bad people. The word is that they've been hired by a group with connections to foreign intelligence services. Foreign spies? Maya asked. That's what it looks like. These people don't mess around, Maya. If they're threatening this family, they mean it. But here's the thing. If they're foreign agents trying to steal American technology, then this becomes a national security issue. That means the FBI would be very interested in stopping them. Maya felt a spark of hope. So we can go to the FBI? Maybe. But you'd need evidence. You'd need to prove who these people are and what they're trying to steal. Otherwise, it's just the word of a waitress and a scared college student against professional criminals. Maya understood. They needed to catch these people in the act. They needed recordings, photographs, or documents that proved the espionage plot. It was risky, but it might be the only way to stop them and protect Marcus's family. Jerome, I need you to do one more thing for me, she said. Name it. I need to record a meeting that's happening today at noon. But I need to do it without being seen, and I need backup in case things go wrong. Jerome was quiet for a long moment. Maya, are you sure about this? Once we start down this path, there's no going back. Maya thought about Marcus's terrified face, about the photographs of his mother being followed, about the threats against his whole family. These criminals thought they could intimidate anyone they wanted just because they had resources and connections. They thought a waitress from the wrong side of town would never stand up to them. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I'm sure, she said. Let's stop these people. Maya arrived at the Harrison Technologies building at 11:15, 45 minutes before the scheduled meeting. She had spent the morning preparing with Jerome and his contact, a former security specialist named Tony Rodriguez. Tony had provided her with a small recording device and taught her how to use it without being detected. The plan was simple, but dangerous. Marcus would go to the meeting as instructed, but Maya would be hidden nearby, recording everything. Jerome and Tony would be positioned outside the building, ready to call the FBI if things went wrong. Maya had insisted on being the one to go inside, despite the protests from both men. I'm the only one who's actually seen these people, she had argued, and they won't be looking for me. To them, I'm just a waitress who serves coffee. They'll never suspect I'm involved. Now, as Maya studied the Harrison Technologies building, she felt her nerves tightening. The building was a gleaming tower of glass and steel, rising 30 floors above the city. The parking garage entrance was on the side street, hidden from the main road, perfect for a clandestine meeting. Maya had changed out of her usual work clothes into dark jeans and a black hoodie. She looked like any other young person walking through the business district. She entered the building through the main lobby, acting like she belonged there. The lobby was busy with employees returning from lunch. Maya followed a group of people to the elevator and pressed the button for the parking garage. No one paid any attention to her, just as she had hoped. Level B2 was dimly lit and mostly empty. Maya found a hiding spot behind a concrete pillar that gave her a clear view of the area where the meeting was supposed to take place. She checked her recording device one more time and settled in to wait. At exactly noon, Marcus appeared at the stairwell entrance. He looked around nervously before walking toward the center of the parking level. Maya could see his hands shaking even from her hiding spot. She wanted to go to him and provide reassurance, but she knew that staying hidden was crucial to their plan. 2 minutes later, David Chen emerged from the shadows near the opposite end of the garage. He wasn't alone. A woman in an expensive business suit accompanied him, along with a large man who was clearly muscle. Maya's heart began racing as she realized the situation was more serious than they had anticipated. She activated her recording device as Chen approached Marcus. "Mr. Harrison," Chen said, his voice echoing in the concrete space. "I'm glad you decided to be reasonable." "I'm here like you asked," Marcus replied, his voice barely steady. "But I want to see proof that my family is safe." The woman stepped forward. She was Asian, probably in her 40s, with short black hair and cold eyes. When she spoke, her accent was slight but noticeable. "Your family's safety depends entirely on your cooperation," she said. "I am Ms. Lee, and I represent certain interests that require access to your father's government contracts." Maya felt her blood chill. This confirmed Jerome's suspicions about foreign agents. She made sure her recording device was capturing everything clearly. "What exactly do you want me to do?" Marcus asked. Chen pulled out a tablet and showed Marcus something on the screen. "Your father's company has a contract for the new military satellite communication system. We need the technical specifications, security protocols, and access codes." "That's treason," Marcus said. "I can't steal classified information from my own country." Ms. Lee smiled coldly. "Your patriotism is admirable, but misplaced. You will provide what we need, or your family will suffer the consequences. We have already demonstrated our reach." She nodded to the large man, who pulled out his own tablet. On the screen was a live video feed showing Elena Harrison shopping at a grocery store, completely unaware that she was being watched. "Your mother looks lovely today," Ms. Lee continued. "It would be tragic if something happened to her." Maya felt anger surge through her body. These people were threatening an innocent woman just to steal military secrets. She had heard enough to know that this was definitely a foreign intelligence operation, which meant the FBI would be very interested in stopping it. But then something went wrong. Marcus suddenly looked in her direction, his eyes widening with recognition. In his nervousness, he had spotted her hiding place. "Maya?" he said, loud enough for the others to hear. Chen spun around, his hand reaching inside his jacket. "Who's there? Show yourself!" Maya's heart stopped. Their plan had just fallen apart. She had two choices: run and hope she could escape, or step out and try to bluff her way through the situation. She thought about Marcus's terrified family and made her choice. She stepped out from behind the pillar, her hands visible and non-threatening. "Sorry, I got lost looking for my car," she said, trying to sound confused and innocent. Chen studied her face carefully. "You're the waitress from the Grand Meridian. What are you doing here?" Maya's mind raced. She needed to buy time for Jerome and Tony to realize something had gone wrong. "I work part-time cleaning offices in this building," she lied. "I didn't mean to interrupt anything." Ms. Lee and Chen exchanged glances. The large man moved to block the exit, making it clear that Maya wasn't going to be allowed to simply walk away. "I think our young friend here has heard more than she should have," Ms. Lee said dangerously. Maya felt panic rising in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. Her brother had taught her that in dangerous situations, the person who kept their head was the one most likely to survive. I don't know what you're talking about, Maya said. I just heard some people talking about business stuff. I don't understand any of that. Chen pulled out his phone. We need to verify her story. If she really works here, there will be records. Maya knew they would quickly discover she was lying. She needed to create a distraction or find another way out of this situation. That's when she noticed something that gave her hope. The small red light on her recording device was still blinking. Everything was being recorded, including the threats and the admission of their espionage plan. Look, Maya said, I don't want any trouble. I'll just go back upstairs and forget I saw anything. I'm afraid that's not possible, Ms. Lee said. She nodded to the large man who began walking toward Maya. That's when Marcus did something that surprised everyone. He stepped between Maya and the approaching threat. Wait, he said firmly. She doesn't know anything. Let her go. I don't think you're in a position to make demands, Mr. Harrison, Chen said. Actually, I think I am, Marcus replied. And Maya was amazed to hear newfound confidence in his voice. You need me to access those files. If anything happens to Maya, I won't help you. Period. Maya looked at Marcus with new respect. Despite his fear, he was willing to risk everything to protect her. It reminded her why she had decided to help him in the first place. Ms. Lee considered this for a moment. Very well, but both of you will come with us while we complete this transaction. Once we have what we need, we'll decide what to do with your friend. Maya's heart sank. They were going to be taken somewhere else, probably somewhere much more dangerous than a public parking garage. She needed to do something now, before they lost any chance of escape. That's when she heard the sound of multiple vehicles entering the garage at high speed. Car doors slammed, and suddenly armed FBI agents were running toward them from 3 different directions. "Federal agents! Nobody move!" shouted a woman in a FBI jacket. Chaos erupted in the parking garage. Chen reached for his gun, but Marcus tackled him before he could draw it. The large man tried to run but was immediately surrounded by agents. Ms. Lee stood perfectly still, her hands raised, but her eyes were filled with fury. Maya felt overwhelming relief flood through her body. Jerome and Tony had seen her enter the building and called for backup when she didn't emerge on schedule. The FBI had been listening to the entire conversation through her recording device, which had a wireless transmitter Tony had installed. Special Agent Sarah Martinez approached Maya and Marcus while other agents secured the prisoners. Are you both all right? Yes, Maya said, her voice shaky but strong. I got everything recorded. They admitted to espionage and threatened the Harrison family. Agent Martinez smiled. We heard. This recording, combined with our investigation into Meridian Investigations, should be enough to shut down this entire operation. Over the next hour, Maya learned the full scope of what they had uncovered. Ms. Lee was a Chinese intelligence officer who had been operating in the United States for 3 years. Chen and Meridian Investigations had been taking money to help foreign agents access American technology companies. They had targeted Marcus because his youth and lack of experience made him seem like an easy mark. They made one crucial mistake, Agent Martinez explained to Maya and Marcus as they gave their statements. They underestimated the people they were threatening. Most wealthy families would have either paid them off or tried to handle this quietly. They never expected a Waitress to organize a counterintelligence operation. Marcus looked at Maya with amazement. You saved my family. If you hadn't noticed something was wrong at the restaurant, if you hadn't convinced me to fight back, they would have gotten away with this. Maya felt embarrassed by all the attention. I just did what anyone should do when they see someone in trouble. No, Agent Martinez said firmly. What you did required exceptional courage and intelligence. You identified a foreign intelligence operation that our agency had been trying to track for months. Your actions have prevented the theft of classified military technology and protected national security. The story made national news within hours. Headlines praised the waitress who stopped foreign spies and the college student who stood up to criminals. Maya found herself overwhelmed by interview requests and attention from reporters. 3 weeks later, Maya was back at work at the Grand Meridian Hotel, but things had changed. The hotel manager had promoted her to head server with a significant raise in salary. More importantly, she had received a call from Agent Martinez with an unusual offer. "Maya, the FBI is always looking for people with your observational skills and courage," Agent Martinez had said. "Have you ever considered a career in law enforcement?" Maya was still thinking about that possibility as she served breakfast to her morning customers. The work felt different now, knowing that her attention to detail and ability to read people could lead to something bigger than just taking orders and serving food. Marcus and his family had become regular customers again, but now they treated Maya more like a family friend than just their server. Richard Harrison had offered to pay for her college education, and Elena had invited her to several charity events. Marcus had even asked her to be his date for a company party, though Maya had gently declined, explaining that they came from different worlds. "Maybe," Marcus had said with a smile, "but you're the bravest person from any world that I've ever met." On this particular morning, as Maya poured coffee and took orders, she noticed a man in a dark suit sitting alone at table 6. For a moment, her heart raced as she remembered David Chen. But then the man looked up and smiled warmly, asking for more coffee in a friendly voice. Maya smiled back and refilled his cup, but she also made a mental note of his appearance and behavior. Some habits, she had learned, were worth keeping. The world was full of people who needed help and people who intended harm. The trick was knowing the difference and being willing to act when it mattered. As her shift ended that day, Maya thought about Agent Martinez's offer and about the scholarship Richard Harrison had established for her. She thought about her grandmother's advice to help people who needed it and her brother's lessons about standing up to bullies. Maybe she would become an FBI agent. Maybe she would finish college and start her own business. Maybe she would continue working at the Grand Meridian and watching out for people who needed help. What she knew for certain was that she would never again hesitate to act when she saw someone in trouble. The warning signs would always be there for those who knew how to look for them. And Maya Washington had proven that sometimes the most important observers were the ones nobody expected to be watching. 3 months later, Maya received a letter from the director of the FBI, officially commending her for her service to the country. The letter now hung on the wall of her apartment, next to a photo of her grandmother and a certificate from the community college where she had decided to study criminal justice. The Harrison family remained close friends, and Marcus had started a scholarship program for students from Maya's neighborhood who wanted to pursue careers in law enforcement or security. He often said that Maya had taught him that real courage had nothing to do with how much money you had or where you came from. As for David Chen and Ms. Lee, they were convicted of espionage and sentenced to federal prison. The Meridian Investigations Company was shut down, and several other foreign agents in their network were arrested. The military technology they had tried to steal remained secure, protecting American soldiers and national interests around the world. Maya never forgot the lesson she had learned from that experience, that ordinary people could do extraordinary things when they paid attention, trusted their instincts, and had the courage to act. She had started as a waitress who noticed warning signs that everyone else missed. She had become a hero who saved a family and stopped foreign spies. But most importantly, she had proven that when someone needed help, it didn't matter who you were or where you came from. What mattered was whether you were willing to stand up and do the right thing. And in a world full of people who preferred to look the other way, that made all the difference.